With theories about sexual selection and about why sex occurs at all, it seems that every time a new theory is put forward, it is very quickly shot down. However, one of the developments of recent years is that we may now be on the threshold of a general consensus, not only with regard to sex, but also with regard to a number of other aspects of evolution. As with the theories about what choosy females are looking for in males, once again, it has to do with parasites. This is the theory of the Red Queen, and although it was introduced by Lee Van Valen back in 1973, it has only recently made a major impact on evolutionary theory with regard to behavior. Lee Van Valen named his Red Queen theory after a passage in Lewis Carroll's Alice Through the Looking Glass. At one point, Alice meets the short-tempered Red Queen, who constantly rushes around but never seems to get anywhere. When Alice is running around with a Red Queen, but they don't seem to be making any progress, she remarks, "In our country, you generally get somewhere else if you ran very fast for a long time, as we've been doing." The Red Queen replies, "A slow sort of country. Now here, you see, it takes all the running you can do just to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that." The Red Queen theory suggests that evolutionary change on one side leads to counteracting change on the other side, which in relative terms appears as a standstill. The Red Queen is based on the notion that parasites and hosts are in a continual evolutionary battle or arms race. Due to their short lifespan and their enormous numbers, bacteria, viruses, and other microbial parasites evolve much more rapidly than their hosts. According to the Red Queen theory, the host produces variable offspring in retaliation to parasites, so that by chance, some of them will have resistance. It is this variability that, by lending resistance to at least some of the offspring, gives sex the edge in the population. Since each side in the arms race reacts to changes in the opposition's camp, then each ends up pretty much where it started off. Changes in the immune system of higher animals may even lead to circular warfare between host and parasite, whereby a form of resistance, which may have been overcome in one generation, might reemerge when the parasite has altered many generations later. This may help to explain why many species remain largely unchanged over very lengthy geological periods. Here's a claymation look at the Red Queen hypothesis.
We have the Red Queen hypothesis, which gets its name from, you guessed it, the Red Queen from Through the Looking Glass. See, in the book, in one of the dreams that Alice had, she is running after the Red Queen, but discovers that neither of them are actually moving. So how does this have to do with sexual reproduction? Well, let's imagine that there is a host and a parasite. The host species may evolve to become resistant to the parasite, but for the parasite species to not go extinct, it needs to evolve to cope with the change in the host. Now, evolution is a slow process, but sexual reproduction can help speed it up. This is because it introduces new potentially beneficial mutations faster than asexual reproduction. So if both species reproduce sexually, they can continue running, like Alice and the Queen, while staying in exactly the same place, aka not going extinct.
Okay, so we have a lovely bit of countryside here, and living there is a species called the yellows. Now here's a yellow happily walking about, having a whale of a time. But unfortunately, there's a blue predator called the blues, and he has a big mouth, so he's able to eat the yellow one. You don't want to see this bit. So Blue is happy, and he excitedly sees another yellow. But over time, the yellows have evolved and adapted to have legs that can run quickly. So Yellow escapes Blue to go eat grass or cress or something. The Blue has nothing else to eat, so unfortunately will starve. So Yellow is happily eating his cress, but then Blues adapt and evolve like this guy to have arms. So using these arms, the Blue can grab the Yellow and catch him and eat him. So the Blue is happy with his... Stop showing off now, Blue. But the Yellows now have adapted and evolved to be faster and have longer legs. So Blue excited for a tasty snack, but Yellow jumps over him and goes back to his cress, his lovely, lovely cress. So Blue again evolves and adapts to become much bigger so he can easily catch Yellow and eat him. Glad you don't have to see this bit. So the Yellows go, adapt and evolve, and now they have a shell. Now the Blue can try all he wants, but he can't break through the shell at all. So the Blue begins to starve and Yellow can eat and grow again. So finally Blue evolves and adapts to have teeth, and well, I think Yellow knows how this is going to end. And as you can see, this will continue, and keep going on, and that's why you have the evolutionary arms race.
Bell's finding that sex is more common when the environment is more stable fits in well with the Red Queen. This also fits in well with his own preference that it is competition between macroorganisms that maintain sex in a population. The acid test of the red queen is that sex should be more common where parasite pressure is greatest. Since many species can reproduce either sexually or asexually, a good test would be to determine which method is favored by a species that can do either, and measuring them under varying degrees of parasite pressure. One study that fulfills these criteria perfectly was conducted in New Zealand by Curtis Lively. It involves water snails. These snails live in both stable lakes and highly variable streams, and they are able to make use of both asexual and sexual reproduction. In strong support of the red queen, Lively discovered that in the lakes where rates of parasitism are high, then sex is decidedly common. Whereas in streams where parasitism is low, asexual reproduction is more common. Lively and his co-workers have uncovered similar findings with a small Mexican fish called the top minnow and a species of nematode. These findings lend clear support to the red queen and suggest that although Bell may have been right to concentrate on biotic pressures as a driving force for sex, he may have been wrong about which biotic pressures. It's not the big organisms that are most likely to kill you, it's the ones you can't even see. In relation to our own species, as Matt Ridley puts it, what killed your ancestors 2 centuries or more ago? Well, it was smallpox, tuberculosis, influenza, pneumonia, plague, scarlet fever, and diarrhea. Starvation or accidents may have weakened people, but infection killed them. Currently, the red queen is riding high as these theories go. It may be that one of the most important consequences of the red queen lies beyond its effects on immunity from parasites. It lies in its effects on mate choice. Some evolutionists argue that the red queen explains why individuals of many species look for certain features in the opposite members of their population, since these features are there to demonstrate a lack of parasites which might otherwise reduce reproductive potential. Armed with an understanding of the theories of natural and sexual selection, we can now apply them to understanding behavior. Understanding evolution as the differential survival of genotypes is quite easy when considering changes in physical or morphological characteristics, such as the number of eggs a hen lays or variability in, say, the length of a bird's tail feathers. Understanding the relationship between evolution and behavior is more difficult. Unlike a leg bone, behavior does not fossilize and cannot be studied directly. But if we consider an animal's behavioral repertoire as a part of its phenotype, then we can begin to see how it may also be shaped by evolution. Laying more eggs may help you to pass on more copies of your genes. Having longer tail feathers may help you to escape a bird of prey, and for males may also attract females of your species to you. But having long tail feathers to enable you to escape a raptor or to attract a female would be useless if you were unable to recognize other animals as being dangerous or potential mates, respectively, or to react appropriately to such stimuli. Since behavior has clear consequences for survival and for reproduction, genes which successfully modify an animal's behavioral repertoire are passed on to its offspring. Of course, the consequences of an animal's behavior are always contingent on the environment in which it lives. As we saw earlier, we can break this environment down into abiotic and biotic components. An animal's behavior helps it to solve the problems of its abiotic environment, such as if it's too hot, cold, wet, or dry. It might be able to improve its immediate surroundings by digging a burrow and staying put until things improve. Some threatening biotic components will be potential food, predators, or parasites, but many will be members of your own species, referred to as conspecifics. Most experts agree that the biotic environment is of greater importance in shaping an animal's behavior. It is becoming very clear that an animal's conspecifics have been of the utmost importance in shaping the behavioral repertoire of a species. After all, it is other members of your species that you will need to cooperate or compete with. Cooperation is common among animal species. Black-headed gulls band together to mob larger carrion crows and drive them away from their nesting sites. African wild dogs form packs to bring down larger prey like wildebeest, and an individual ant could not survive without the combined and well-delineated efforts of its nestmates. While cooperation is well documented in some species, competition is common in all. Animals, in a sense, compete to become ancestors. Those individuals that successfully compete to pass on their genes to future generations become ancestors at the expense of others in the population. One of the most important elements of competition is competition for mates. In this way, we can think of genes as biasing behavior in ways that increase reproduction and thus produce more copies of themselves. Genes that alter behavioral responses in ways that increase mating opportunities are likely to become more common over time than genes that do not. Female choice and competition between males may both be very powerful forces in the evolution of behavior.